It says, the children now love luxury, and they have bad manners, contempt for authority, they show disrespect for elders, and they love chatter and place of exercise. Everybody agree with that, probably? Anybody have any idea who said that? Do what? Socrates. So, looking at this, it brought a lot of perspective to say maybe it's not the kids these days. Maybe it's just the way that we have grown. Everybody looks on everybody in every other generation the same way that the previous generation, the previous generation, the previous generation. So, looking at it and looking at my workforce at the time when we put this together, I kind of went through the ages of people that I had that were working for me, and everybody was different. And so when you started looking at this and studying generations, they put the titles of the name like Silent Generation or Gen X or Millennials. There's like 15 different scales when it comes to those year brackets, and it's always a retrospective of how they put them together. So I'm going to put some dates up here. This is the one that I like because it throws me in one that I don't want to be associated with if I used another one. But if you're in one and you're like, there's no way I'm a whatever, I think most people kind of can see both sides. But anyway, so the silent generation, when we start to look at their views on work, they prioritize the seniority. They look at the hierarchy. They want to provide that long-term employment with their employer. You didn't see people changing jobs from this. They were committed and for a time. Then you have the baby boomer generation, and when we look at it, they like face-to-face. They actually sacrifice their time with their families for success because they kind of saw a little bit from their previous generation, but they were the true driving workforce that we see that shaped a lot of us. So then Gen X, shaped by divorce, latchkey kids, because they were the children of that baby boomer generation, and it was actually this generation that coined the term work-life balance. So when I look at it, I fall into this group, and I'm like, here I am. My generation coined this phrase that's pissing me off every time I said in this interview. It's our fault, right, that this is coming up. And then the wonderful group that everybody. So I changed this. I was an 80 kid, so that's why I said I like this, because nobody wants to be called a millennial, I think, except for the millennials. That they take pride in it. But they're more shaped by events, 9/11, Columbine, the internet. Looking at it, they very dependent on the quality of their supervisor, their coworkers. That means a lot to them. Those relationships with who they work with is actually more important to them as a whole than the jobs that they're doing, the type of work they're doing. It's about the relationships that they build in the work environments. So then the group that we're taking care of these days, and there's actually, another group, right? So you've got Gen Z, Gen Alpha. It's two groups, kind of combine them together. But think about it. They're a global group. They're connected to everything. They're very independent because, most of them have two working parents. And so they've had to become, we were joking earlier, we had to jump through hurdles to try not to bring our kid here this year like we did last year so she could go to school. But we had to have somebody get up in the morning and feed the goat, somebody stay with her in the evening, somebody take her to golf practice, somebody pick her up from golf practice, somebody deliver her golf clubs during the middle of the day, and all of that kind of good stuff. So they're busy, but we don't know what their work life is going to be like, but we do know that it's going to be something that they are going to demand that be flexible, it's going to be individualized, and it's going to be very tech dependent. So when we start to put all that stuff together as a manager or a leader, it really starts to have to figure out how do you cater to all of these different generations and their views on their work-life balance. And so for years, this is how we saw things, right? It was work-life balance. It was work and life on the side of that scale. Well, when you have a scale, it creates, we think, it has to be competition, right? And in any competition, except for soccer, there has to be a winner and a loser, right? And so there's a finite answer, and it is with wins and losses I think it also builds in this work-life balance, it builds that guilt and that regret as well, because you feel torn between two different things trying to keep everything balanced out. So I saw a presentation one time and I adapted it. My graphics here are horrible, but I think of it like this. Everybody's born with a box. That box is the same size for every single individual. And then inside of that box, we see a bunch of deflated balloons, and everybody has the same balloons. And they have different things written on those balloons. And they're different parts of your life throughout your life. And as you go through life, those balloons inflate depending upon what you're prioritizing. So as a kid, your parents are your balloon. It fills up your whole box. Then they introduce that little sibling to it. Their balloon has to shrink a little bit because now your box has to stay full. Does that make sense? And so you have siblings. Then all of a sudden you go off to school, you introduce friends to that mix. Then those kids go off to college, that parent balloon starts getting smaller, those siblings get smaller, those friends, then you go out and you build a relationship. Then you get a job, right? And it's all this stuff that starts adding into your box. Your box can't get any bigger. Your balloons just have to shrink depending upon where you're at. So, again, another definition is work versus the rest of your life. But when you look at it, it's actually work is a part of life. Hobbies is a part of life. Your family is a part of your life. Your friends are a part of your life. You add all those together, you have life over life, and that makes you whole, right? When you're whole, you feel fulfilled. So if you are, if you don't have a job, things could be great, but you could be stressed of not being able to pay the bills to take care of your family. So you're not getting that full fulfillment that you're looking for. So it is an infinite relationship. It's not finite. It's not set in stone. It's just like those of you that are married or in a relationship, do you go home at night and say, hey, I kicked the crap out of you today in our relationship. I won, you lost, right? No. So you have to give and take and work together. There's no winner. There's no loser. It's a give and take relationship, and it's always changing and growing. So why is it important that you as an individual focus on having that work-life ratio? Notice I didn't use the word balance anymore because we're talking fractions. Oh, crap, we got to do math. So that physical, mental well-being, it reduces stress, burnout, fatigue, and overall makes you happy, right? How many of you today, if you did not have to pay your bills, right? You had no bills. How many of you would have got up and came here this morning to see me? None, right? No, don't lie. You wouldn't have came here to see me. All right. How many of you would have got up today, tomorrow, and gone to your school and said, hey, I'm here to volunteer, and I'm gonna work 12 hours and cover all this stuff? None of you, right? You'd come here a lot sooner than you'd go there, right? So we have to make sure that whatever we're doing, we enjoy, because it really is going to stink if we don't. And the other big part, and the main reason I feel that we all got into being an athletic trainer, we'll get to that here in a second, but I think that we enjoy the relationships that we have, right? With our kids, our coworkers, our coaches, and all that kind of good stuff, right? We enjoy it. And so we want to make sure that our time with them count. So again, burnout, we don't want anybody to experience that. And so you don't feel engaged anymore. You feel helpless. You feel like you're on autopilot. You feel like it's February, the end of February, because that's the worst month for an athletic trainer ever, right? You used to feel motivated. You came out of Christmas, or the summer's over, you're dreading football, but you're like, you know what? It's a new year, new me. Let's go. And all of a sudden I equate it to like riding a roller coaster. You get on it, it's up and down and twists and turns. And all of a sudden you get off of it and you're like, let's do it again, right? But after a while and you ride the same roller coaster, you're like, that thing's not near as fun as it used to be, right? But you become, used to be motivated. You wanted to do those things. Now you're feeling unmotivated. You're no longer passionate about what you originally set out for. You've lost interest. And me, I know I become moody and irritable. I snap at people. I have, uncharacteristic emotional outbreaks. I'm a great guy unless I'm moody. But and our profession is horrible at self-care. I think that we spend our entire lives taking care of other people, and we forget to take good care of ourselves. 39 years old, I had a stroke. Yeah, because I was running and going and trying to take care of as many people as I could, and I forgot to take care of the one person I had to take care of so I could take care of all of those people, okay? I don't recommend it, okay? 10 out of 10, don't recommend. So from a management standpoint, why do I want to make sure that you have a quality work-life ratio? Well, main thing is I want you to be productive. I want you to be efficient. I want you to have that focus. I want to take care of you. I want you to take care of the job that I've hired you to do. I also want to make sure that I can keep you. I want to keep you engaged. I want to retain you as employment, because the most expensive part of me when it comes to my budget is replacing people. Hiring and replacing people. And so I want to make sure that I keep the same people, because we have a culture, and we want to make sure that we maintain that culture of excellence whenever we're out in the community, and I don't want to continue to have to introduce new people. And I dang sure don't want somebody that's moody walking around with my shirt on, going into a place going, "Oh, how are you today?" Right? I want them to enjoy being there. So it's important to me. So the study was done back in 2018 that says that employees are not necessarily looking at compensation's always still the number one driver, but they're not looking at other things like health care benefits or things like that as the number two driver when they look for jobs. They're looking for that work life, and they use the term balance, right? A lot of people, and I would say our profession falls into this, that we don't see a lot of changes in our salary. We have a ceiling of where our jobs are. There's not like, you keep advancing in the world of athletic training, right? You're there. And, that's what I was telling our staff on Monday. There's a lot of things that I would like to do for them that I can't. But inherently, we all chose this profession, and we need to know what those limitations are within that profession. But what we've attempted to do at Houston Methodist is, if there's not that vertical growth, there's always an opportunity for horizontal growth, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So we're trying to get people where they can experience more things, and they might find another area where they can slide out of their current role where they feel like they're capped, and then maybe shoot over to the other side and shoot up in different places. But knowing that we have this scenario going on, what we do at the hospital every year across the system in other healthcare settings across the country do this. They partner with Prescani, and they do a survey. It's called an Employee Opinion Survey. And so y'all are going to get to participate in a couple of questions today that we do as well. So did that pop up? God dang it. If I do a quick math in my head, this is going to be somewhere in the mid to upper threes, right? If I average all of that together on a scale of 1 to 5. So it's pretty good. If I were to give you this, our opinion survey comes out in October. If I were to give you this in October on a Wednesday afternoon, would that change? It would, right? So here in a minute, I'm going to show you what our scores look like. Okay, and so we're mid threes on that one. I'm able to disconnect from work communications during my free time. How many of you? God dang. How many of you have your phone on right now and you've had a coach text you already this morning? You've had 2 already, yeah? You didn't tell me that. What? Was that his response? Oh, okay. So this is good. This is going to be probably somewhere upper threes, low fours. Being able to disconnect. And then final one, I'm able to free my mind when I'm not at work or away from it. You can go home at night and not worry about that kid who got injured. Parents don't have money to take him to the doctor. Mom works, single parent. Coach is on you, coach's on kid, telling him there's nothing wrong with him. He needs to play next week, right? Suck it up. Back when I played, I played with a broke leg and on ice, right? So this is going to be another 3, right? Like mid 3. All right. So when we break these questions down, it all comes down to resiliency. When I look at our numbers as my staff on our employee survey, overall, our engagement is in the 99th percentile of healthcare providers across the country. As a system, what are we, 94? So my department is 5 percentile points higher than everybody else in my company. But these 3 questions keep my resiliency score lower than the national average. And I think I do a good job with work-life balance with my staff. And so when I was talking to him on Monday, I said, I think there's a couple of things here that I see, okay? I know for a fact that when we look at this, when my team is polled in October, their scores are averaging about what y'all said today. When I did this presentation at SWATA last summer, it was low 2s, mid 2s for the SWATA group. And so talking to our staff, they said, well, if we didn't have to have these questions in October, our scores would be higher. And I said, I get it, but what you need to think is holistically throughout the year. I understand that the pressure and the time that it's in. I also think that last question, it's our profession, because we are the only ones as athletic trainers that are being scored, and we're being scored against nurses that work that 12-hour shift that go home, but they have another nurse coming in behind them. That physician comes in, takes care of that patient. They leave. They know they've got an entire healthcare team taking care of it. We do not, right? We worry about that kid. We lose sleep over that kid. We can't free our mind because we know that the coach is going to text us, right? We know that. And you feel that guilt of turning the phone off or ignoring it a lot of times. So, I think that a lot of it too is that we've built a system that we are afraid that we can't change. And that's what Jimmy was saying on Monday was, he said, I've been doing this 49 years, and he goes, probably 90% of the issues I have, I caused. And he goes, and the other problem is, he said, and this is where he made everybody mad. He goes, but I know that, and he goes, there's one person that can fix those, and that's me. And he goes, I can't expect somebody else to fix the problems that I have, caused. Show of hands, how many people on a Friday night during a football game, as soon as a helmet snap breaks, they look to you to fix it? How many of you get paid a stipend to be the equipment manager? Right? But that's what we've traditionally done. How many of you do laundry? How many of you get a stipend to do laundry? Right? But it's something that we are looked upon at doing, right? And so we have created those scenarios where we take care of things because we're doers. And we take care of it and we fix stuff. That's what we do. And so we just take all of this on, we take it on. And then, unfortunately, for those of you that are 0 to 5 in that year, that's what's expected of you because the person before you did it. Okay? And it's really hard for you to, it's really hard for you to do something for 20 years to then walk in and say, I'm not doing this anymore. Right? Real hard. And it's really hard for you that are 0 to 5 years, 0 to 1 year to walk in and say, I'm not doing this, because then they start to question, why did we hire this person? They're not as good as Doc whatever, right? I mean, so, but we have to get up to thinking that we can fix things, we can change things. So how do we do those? Step 1, identify your why. Okay, I'm a big why person. Okay, why did I get into this profession? When I sit down, I take note of it. I got in this profession because I wanted to take care of people. I wanted to give back. It was something that I enjoyed, and more importantly, it combined 2 loves of mine, medicine and sports, right? It put it all together. That was my why. When I sit down and I look at it, that's what I look at. I did a chat GBT, and I said, why do people become an athletic trainer? This is what pops up, right? Y'all like that? All right. So, why is responding off? Here we go. Cancel. Can't see. Let's see. Did it turn them on? Can y'all respond to that question? And it's just free form type. Why did you get into this profession? So a lot of it kind of similar things, right? It combined a couple of things that you enjoy to help others. Some of you got into it because you sustained an injury and were probably affected by your athletic trainer or your sports medicine team. Saw a challenge in it to help people, help athletes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next one. When I actually started looking at it, I got into this profession because I needed a paycheck, right? I didn't want to be come out of school having debt and needing to, even though it wasn't a huge paycheck, it was a paycheck, and all $22,000 worth of it. And I wanted to make sure that, I was no longer a burden on my parents. And again, those other things are part of why it made it good. But ultimately, we all take jobs because we need money, right? Again, none of you would have volunteered to go do your job this afternoon, right? All right. So once you take and you identify your why, you need to identify your balloons, because everybody has different inflated balloons at different times. You need to allocate, and you need to figure out how those things are related to your why. Allocate your time and your effort to those. And a couple of times through the year, the beginning of the year, whenever you're feeling down, right before you think you're going to hit that big burnout spot, track every minute associated with those balloons. Write it down. Look at it. And see how much time you're spending with your work, with your family, with your kids, on your self-care, all of that stuff. Put it down on paper. As Deidre said yesterday, if you don't write it down, it didn't happen. But if you can track it, I guarantee you will find some areas where you can make those adjustments to help balance things out. There's a offensive coach now at Texas State. Worked with him for years. He used to tell his players, be where your feet are. And so I've taken that a little bit further and say, I want your head, your heart, and your feet all aligned. So if you're sitting at work and you're worried about everything going on with your kids and your home and your family and all that good stuff, you're doing a disservice to everybody. So when you're at work, be at work. When you're at home, be at home. Take time for you, even at home, to say, I'm stepping away from family. I'm stepping away from work. I'm taking care of me. And right now, it's all about me. I'm caring about me, and I'm right here. You got to be pretty pompous to quote yourself in your own talk. That's pretty impressive, huh? All right. So the other thing, when you step 3, focus on the good and the strengths about your job, right? Determine what those obstacles are and devise a plan to be efficient with your time. It's not, I know coaches set the schedule. It's your time, right? it is your time. Take ownership of it. Let them know this is my time. Our kid, like I say, those of you who were here last year met her. We're taking funds currently to buy her a Jeep. But since she was about 4 years old, we'd play Peep the Jeep, right? She made this game up. So you drive down the road and you call out Jeeps. Well, it's a slug bug, but you don't hit people, basically, right? And so you would be amazed when you drive down the freeway in Houston and you're only looking for Jeeps, how many Jeeps you actually see. So if you take and you look for the positives with your job, guess what you're going to find? Positives. If you look for the negatives with your job, guess what you're going to find? Negative. So that's one thing that we've tried to instill in her in all aspects of her life too, is look for the positives. Peep the Jeep, right? Look for those things, write them down. You'll find them. All right. So real quick, what's the best? God, I don't know why half of these work, half of them don't. Technology, gotta love it. Can y'all respond there? Nope. There we go. All right. What's the best part of your job? How many of you are sitting next to your coworker as you're typing this? Yeah. Free food. I like it. Man, who's getting free stuff? I like that. I will say, I don't know if I've bought a pair of tennis shoes since 1998. I will say that. So, a lot of this has to do with the people that you work with, right? The kids, some of you got great work-life balance. The hours are good, steady schedules. They have the work-life balance. It's awesome. Awesome, awesome. All right. What's the worst part of your job? Those of you sitting next to your coworkers, this is your time. And what's funny is every time I do this, it's usually about the same 4 or 5 topics that come up on here. So we'll see. Yep, that's one of them. That's the red one's the second one. Bureaucracy, the travel, the hours, needy athletes. So if we can take and we can identify the positive things that we have, right? And I will say that there are a lot of, if we had kept that going, I guarantee you there's more positives than negatives because you're still here, right? But focus on the positives, work through the negatives. All right, next, when were you most satisfied with your job? Now as in this moment because you're here with me? Oh, that's so nice. Moving home, winning, return to play of injured athletes, doing rehab, helping others. Okay. Somebody had a job change, it looks like, May 9th, specifically May 9th. Yeah. That's highly specific. Would you like to elaborate, ma'am? But I think that when we can look at things that when we were happy, right, we've tried to determine what has changed since that makes us feel that we're not happy, right? Or, since we're May 9th through present, she's good, right? But so. I'm trying to say lack of support, underappreciated. Those are getting bigger and bigger, right? So it means people keep answering those kind of the same thing. Adding responsibilities, and in none of this do I see care, prevention, rehab, those 6 domains, right? And none of those 6 domains are in that talk. So you still love the profession. We got to look at what is under our control from our positives, our negatives, and how we would like things to go back to working. So the biggest key is we need to communicate with all of our stakeholders, both personal and professional. And because, I have a great situation that my wife also is an athletic trainer, so she understands the demands and the hours and all of that. Not everybody has that. And so the ability to communicate that and have that infinite relationship to be able to give and take and understand and work with everybody, lay out those expectations from the beginning, define all the boundaries, again, dictate your schedule, put all that stuff out there to start with. It's a lot easier. Being willing to have those conversations instead of continuing the status quo is not good, right? We're going to continue to do the same thing. Work with those coworkers. Work with them. There was a study done in 2014 that says the more people at work, the less productivity, their productivity begins to decrease. No crap. All right. Great job, Germans. Thanks for telling us. All right. So, but what we also saw in 2019 was this study that said 21% of working hours are spent doing stuff that aren't related to working. And so what we see, hey, there's that great philosopher Jace Duke again. What we see is really arrogant if you quote yourself twice. I always tell my staff there's a big difference between being at work and working. If you can get your job done in 4 hours, I'll pay you for 8, right? Get it done. Don't sit in the field house because the coaches don't want to go home. Dictate your, right? I heard a right somewhere, right? Just because they don't want to go home doesn't mean you have to sit up there and watch them go. Did he step at a 27-degree angle or a 30-degree angle? Back it up. Let's do it again. Well, Did he get the block? Did he not? Who cares? Go home, coach, right? Spend time with your kids instead of worrying about everybody else's kids. So, but again, look at that. When you start to prioritize, we took over a hospital about 10 years ago, and the staff was like, man, we work all these hours. And we went through that exercise of write it down. And they were like, man, you micromanage. I said, no, I'm trying to help you manage your time. Write down every minute of the day that you're spending doing something, that whatever you're doing, write it down. And what we saw was there were huge gaps during the middle of the day where they didn't have a whole lot going on. They could take that gap, take the one thing that they were doing in that gap, do it on a Tuesday, and Monday, rest of the week, they had a 2-hour gap. Go home. Go to the grocery store. Pay your bills, right? Because how many of you now get off the practice field, got to run by HEB at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, buy your groceries? Why can't you do that during the middle of the day, right? You got all your work done. Why just sit there? So we have to get where we change mindset, we change culture. One of our former physicians used to say, you either change people or you change people. So you either take and you can convince people that they need to allow you and help you make that change in your time, because, again, you cannot be the most productive you if you are struggling with these things. Or, you know how many open athletic training jobs there are in the state of Texas right now? A lot. And so, Kathy Derringer and I disagree on this. I do believe we have a shortage of athletic trainers. The NATA is going to tell you that they're credentialing more people than ever. But I'm going to tell you they probably are. But we also have people exiting the profession at a faster rate. We also have more job creation at a faster rate. Back whenever 43 years ago, Brownfield America hired an athletic trainer, right? How many places around you were you the only one? A bunch? And then now, everybody. I mean, Borden County had 2 people at their state championship game, apparently, at their 6-man football game. Well, if you count Buzz. So, yeah. Here, here, yeah. So you know, it's not comfortable to have to change to change jobs, to move, and all that kind of good stuff. But find a situation where it works for you, right? And we know that, you know, I want you to be in a spot where you feel happy, right? That you enjoy getting up every day, going to work, making a difference, like you did that very first day whenever you took that job the very first year. So I ask you this: besides money, okay, besides money, why do you stay in this profession? So when things start to pile up, things to get start to get busy, you start to feel that burnout, go back and focus on some of these questions that we've talked about, right? Why did you get in? Why did you stay? Know that you make a difference. I want you waking up, feeling inspired, going to work, returning, and feeling fulfilled. Remember earlier when I said life over life is fulfilled? Whenever you can have that top and that bottom, fulfillment is where you want to be. All right. Last homework question, I believe. What can you do? Again, it's on you to improve your work life ratio. There's no is one of the easiest and the hardest words to say in the English language, isn't it? Right? Set those boundaries, define those things. I would add, communicate, right? And being able to have those tough conversations, which is part two of this talk, not today, but another time, is having those difficult conversations with people. All right. So when I look at it, I don't take care of athletes on a daily basis anymore, right? But I still take care of my people, and I'm still getting to do that, right? I feel like I get to give back. With the number of schools and the number of students and the number of athletes that we reach through our program, man, it inspires me that we can do that and we can provide that. I love it. As Sean joked earlier, I do wear a suit every day. I look at spreadsheets all the time, but it's not necessarily from a business aspect, but it's how to improve the work environment. It's how to improve the care that we're providing and those kind of things for everybody else. But when I sit down and I actually look at it, my why is that right there, right? I do everything I can do because, again, if I'm independently wealthy, I'm not here today, right? But I want to make sure because I want to be spending time with those two people, and I have a job because that one in the middle is expensive, and the one on the, the one on the left is she's in the back, but if she wasn't here, I'd tell you she's expensive too. But no, we yeah, I get off my lawn. The Amazon guy stepped on my new grass, and I went to go put some signs up. But anyway, no, it's a pleasure being here today. That's my contact information. If you scan it, you're gonna have more. You're gonna have my home